Hello, I'm Rich, and this is our fourth part of our five-part training series for our fundamental training for STK free. This particular lesson is going to look at how to make a simple movie in STK and how to create what's called a visual data file. So what you're going to learn in this tutorial is how to make a movie with STK, but we're not going to create an Emmy making movie. This is just a simple intro so that you can make a movie to pass the level 1 certification. We're going to look at how to create visual data files, and all you need to know about that right now is that it's a way to take a scenario in STK, and it's not really a zip file per se, but you can take all the files in STK and put them in one file, and I'll show you how to do that. And we're going to end up looking at STK Viewer, and STK Viewer is a great tool that you don't see too much, but you can use it on a computer that does not have STK, and you can visualize your scenario that you created in 3D for presentations and that kind of thing. So this is our fourth part called Movies and Visual Data Files, and again, I'm making a fairly quick video for you so you can see how this works, but if you want an in-depth idea on how to make a movie, you definitely want to go to the tutorial called Movies and Visual Data Files. So engineers and operators often need resources to prepare visual presentations for briefings, talks, speeches, and demonstrations. In this scenario, an aircraft is flying an important mission. You will learn how to create a simple movie which can be embedded in a PowerPoint presentation or played for an audience. We're going to take an STK scenario and convert it into a visual data file which can be viewed with STK Viewer on a computer not containing a licensed version of STK, which in turn allows you to create a first-rate briefing experience for you, the presenter, and the audience. You're going to learn how to make movies with STK, create visual data files, and use STK Viewer. So I've got STK up and running. I'm going to go to the Welcome to STK window and click Create a Scenario. I'm going to call my scenario STK underscore movies underscore VDFs. I'll leave the default start and stop time for this particular movie. Yours will be different, but that's okay because we're just showing you how to make a movie. So go ahead and click OK and start up STK. Now, something I forgot to do when I was setting up my scenario, but this is good practice anyway. I've mentioned it in the objects and properties lesson. I want to change the time to a different time because we're going to make a movie in Okinawa, Japan. So let's go over here to the object browser, right click on STK Movies and VDFs, and open up its properties. I'm going to change my analysis start and stop time. I'm going to change this time to 2200. So no matter where you're at or what day you're doing your scenario, change your time to 2200 UTCG. So 22 and again 22. When you're done, click OK. And if you reset your scenario, it's going to reset it to your new time. Let's go back into the Insert STK Objects tool. And we're going to use Place Objects. Now I'm going to only bring in 2 place objects, but we're going to click on the map to fly our aircraft in sort of a triangle, but you'll see how this is done. So I'm going to select Place as my object, Search by Address as my method, and click Insert. You need an internet connection to use this insert by address. I'm going to type in Naha. Here's how you spell it. And you're going to select Naha Airport, Japan. I'll go ahead and make mine all yellow just so you can see them better on my screen. Select Naha Airport, Japan, and click Insert Place. I'm going to go back up here to the field and I'm going to type in Amami. A-M-A-M-I. Select Amami Japan and click Insert. I'm going to close the search by address window. We have everything we need as far as our place objects. Let's open up the 3D graphic Windows properties. So let me go ahead and close this. And by the way, if you haven't done so yet, I'm going to go ahead and save. Click the save icon. You should be pretty good at this by now. All you have to do is click save when the Save As window opens up and you have a unique folder. So I'm going to open up the properties for my 3D window. So I'm going to click on the properties icon in the toolbar for my 3D graphic window. And I'm going to come over here to the right and I'm going to go to the label declutter frame and turn on enable. Turn that on. This is going to pop the labels up for all my objects on the ground and get them out of the terrain. And that's what I want. I'm going to click OK and accept my change. And you'll see how this works in a minute. Let's go back into the Insert STK Objects tool. Select Aircraft as your object. Insert Default as your method. And click Insert. Let's rename the aircraft Photo Mission. So I'm going to go over here to the object browser, right click, select Rename, and call it Photo Mission. The intent of the scenario is to show you how to create a mission after a typhoon, because the aircraft's going to do photography of the different islands out there due to the typhoon. It's just a fun little scenario. Let's go to the 2D graphic window now. The movie will be done in 3D, but we're going to create our flight in the 2D window. So you can see over here, here's Amami and Naha. I'm going to pan this over and bring them over in front of me, and then I'm going to zoom in to those two place objects. And I'm going to get them in as close as I can. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fly from Naha up to Amami, and then if you look real close on your map, you should see these two little islands down here. We'll fly down to those islands. So it's just going to be sort of a 3-point flight, Naha to Amami, and then these islands down here. When we want to fly to Amami, I don't really care about Naha being precise, but we want to get Amami as precise as possible. You're going to go to this place object here on your 2D graphic window and this little symbol for the place object, and what you're going to do is you're going to try to click as close as you can to this little point right here. So let's go ahead and open up the properties of Photo Mission. So I'm going to go over here and right click on Photo Mission, select Properties. I'm going to change my altitude reference to mean sea level, so I'll open up that pull down menu and select MSL. Go back to your 2D graphic window by clicking on the tab. Remember, if you click on the map, you're going to create waypoints, so be careful here. So click on the tab, bring the 2D window up to the front, and then I'm going to go down to Naha, and I'm going to click once on Naha. And then again, try to get as close as you can to the point here on this symbol. Click at Amami. And then go down here, and somewhere down here near these islands, if you can see them. If you can't, just come down here somewhere to the southeast of Amami and click once. Do you notice here that when you did this, you turned south of Amami? We're going to fix that. That has to do with your turn radius. So let's go back into the properties of Photo Mission, and we're going to make some changes. I'm going to come over here to the right and click the button called Set All. This allows me to change the altitude, speed, and turn radius of my aircraft, and we're going to change all three, so select all three. I'm going to change my altitude to 10,000 feet, so the number 10,000 and then FT for feet. I'm going to slow my aircraft down to 200 miles per hour. So I'm going to type in 200, then MI for miles, slant bar, HR for hours. And we'll change our turn radius to 2 kilometers, 2. Here are my changes. Go ahead and click OK. And click Apply. Let's go back and look at our 2D graphic window. So I'll click on the 2D graphic tab. And you can see now that you moved that turn back up closer to where you originally clicked. It doesn't need to be perfect. Again, this is just practice. I want my plane to bank when it's in that turn, so I'm going to go back to Photo Missions Properties. And if you recall from Objects and Properties, we need to change the attitude. So I'm going to go to the Basic Attitude page, Basic Attitude. And let's go ahead and go to the Basic Type, open up the pull-down menu, and change Coordinated Turn. Click Apply, and that'll bank the aircraft when it's over Amami. The next thing I need to do is I want to change the aircraft model type. So let's go to the 3D Graphics Model page, 3D Graphics Model. Up at the top where it says Model Show, underneath it there's a radio button for model file. The current model is an aircraft.glb type of graphic model. Let's click on the button with the 3 dots, the ellipsis button. And the aircraft that we're going to use in this particular movie is going to be the commuter. So I'm going to select commuter.mdl. The other model type you might see in here is the .dae. We got Collada miles, the GLB models, and the MDL models. The GLB being the most up to date. Now, if I had my say on this, I would pick the rivet joint, RC-135 rivet joint, because that's what real Air Force heroes fly on, but we'll use the commuter. Let's go ahead and click Open. And then we'll go ahead and click Apply. So when you make movies in STK, sometimes you might want to clean things up. You want to prepare the scene. So to do this, I'm going to go up to the 2D graphic attributes. And if you recall, anything I change in 2D graphics attributes will also be applied to 3D. Over on the right, you're going to see a frame called Inheritable Settings. Turn off Inherit from Scenario. Now I'm going to turn off Label, Route, and Route Marker. So I'm only making these changes to the aircraft, but I'm not making changes to other objects in the scenario. I could do this at the scenario level and then it would change it for everything, but I'm just trying to show you how you can do it at a specific object level. Go ahead and click Apply, and now you'll just see the aircraft and not the flight route and the point for the aircraft. Next, we're going to start setting up for our scene. So what I'm going to do is go back to the basic route page, and we're going to make our movie at waypoint 2. So I'm going to come down here to the second waypoint, and I'm going to go over to the time cell, and I'm going to click inside that time cell so I can copy it. I'm going to do a Control-C to copy. And then I'm going to come up here to the animation toolbar where it says current scenario time. I'm going to click in there and I'm going to do a Control-V to paste. Go ahead and click your enter key and it's going to jump your scenario to that time. It's a good idea when you're doing a movie like with an aircraft or a ship or a ground vehicle, something you want to slow down. It's probably better to come back up here to these 3 clocks. Right now we're on normal animation mode, and change it to X real-time animation mode, X real-time. This way the aircraft will fly nice and slow at its real speed. I'm going to go ahead and click OK and close my properties. Bring your 3D graphic window to the front. And let's zoom to the aircraft. So I'm going to go over to the object browser, right click on photo mission and select zoom to. Give it a chance to render. So you can see my aircraft is right here at Amami. There's Amami, Japan. And if you can't see it exactly the same way I see it, don't worry about it. Just find a view that you like. Because this is where the aircraft's going to be halfway through your movie. So maybe you want to be able to see the aircraft and see Amami underneath it. Just get it set up the way you like it, because that right there is what it's going to look like halfway through your movie. Let's go back into the properties of the aircraft. I forgot to bring something in that I want to play. I want to embed a dynamic data display into my 3D graphic window. So let's go back into the properties of photo mission. Drop down to the 3D graphics data display, and we'll just use a report that comes with STK called LLA position that you can see up here at the top. Turn on show. LLA stands for latitude, longitude, altitude. Go ahead and click OK. And now when I make my movie, not only will I see the aircraft when it's flying over Amami, but I have some data. Now when you make a movie, you have to be able to resize your window. Right now my 3D graphic window is maximized. It will not work. So what I'm going to do is come up here to the upper right hand corner, and I'm going to click the icon that says restore the window to normal size. Go ahead and click that. And what that'll do now is it gives you a window that can be manipulated, can be resized. Now what we want to do is we want to start our movie 10 seconds before I'm over Amami, and I want to end my movie 10 seconds after I pass over Amami. So I'm making a 20-second long movie. To make this easy, what I'm going to do is create a stored view 10 seconds before this time that I currently am at. But I'm going to round it. So you can see in my window, yours might be different because we all click different. We have a different day. Don't worry about it. I'm looking at the seconds. Right now, I'm at 22:55:55. I'm going to change my seconds to 45.000. So whatever time you have, you're going to subtract 10 seconds and kind of round it to the nearest integer. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to 45. And if you hit your enter key, it'll jump your aircraft to that spot. So again, you're going to go back 10 seconds. And then we're going to create a stored view. And if you recall, the stored view is this icon right here. It looks like an eyeball, an hour, and a marshmallow. Go ahead and click that icon. I'm going to click New. And I'll just give it a name. I'll just call it Aircraft. Just to give it a name. I'm going to click OK, and now what this will allow me to do is when I want to set things up for my movie, I can jump right to this spot. Ensure you're on X real-time animation mode. That's important. And now we're ready to turn on the movie timeline plugin. There's multiple ways to make movies. You can use the plugin, you can use the 3D graphic window properties. We'll use the plugin to make it easy. I'm going to go up here to the toolbar area, right click, somewhere in here where the toolbars are, and select the movie timeline. When the movie timeline opens up, you're going to click the red record button. This is going to open up the movie wizard. I'm going to move it over here away from my 3D window so I can see what's going on. When the movie wizard opens up, you'll notice it defaults to file name and format. That's a great place to start. As we walk down through this, you won't forget to do important steps. The first step is tell it where you want to save the movie. So I'm going to click Save As. Now mine opened up to my STK 12 folder and then STK movies and VDFs. You'll notice it's in Documents, so if you have to, you can, if it's somewhere else, you can open up Documents, find your STK 12 folder, find your scenario folder, and then give your movie a name. Whatever you want to call it. I'll just call mine First Movie. I'm not going to change anything else. Click Save. We're going to use the H.264 format and click Next. You can make a movie of your 2D window or your 3D window, but not simultaneously. We're making a movie of our 3D graphic window, so click Next. This is where we're going to resize the window. Now there's a lot of different ways to do this. I've found that using the preset called Large is perfect for a PowerPoint presentation. So that's what I'll use. But you don't have to. That just happens to be what I'm going to use. So I'm going to come up here to Preset, open up the pull-down menu, and select Large. And you'll notice it sets it to a setting of 640 by 480, and you can see how it reset my window size. That's why we had to restore the window to normal size in order to be able to reshape that window. Click Next. We don't have a path or anything that we made, so we're just going to use the current view that we have in this window. Again, once you have this set up and you have your 3D window set up, when we start the recording process, you don't want to ever touch your 3D window again. So make sure you're happy with your view at this point. I am. I'm just going to leave it go. You can always go back and play with it again and create another movie. So I'm just going to select None. We're not going to use any views other than what I have here in my 3D window, and click Next. If you haven't listened to anything I said up to this point, you really should listen to me now. When we get to the time and length, the first thing you're going to do is, before you even think about anything else, is uncheck this black lock. If you don't, and you go and manipulate your movie playback length or you manipulate your step size, you're going to really throw off all these values. So by unlocking this, you can manipulate everything in here individually. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here in the animation toolbar to the current scenario time that I have in the animation toolbar. This is when I'm going to start my movie. I'm going to click in there, do a Control-C and copy that time. And then I'm going to come down to the movie time range, and I'm going to highlight the start time and paste that time in here. That's what time I want to create my movie. Next, I'm going to come up here to the movie playback length. We're going to create a 20-second movie. So I'm going to come in here and highlight everything in this cell and type in the number 20. When I hit my Tab key, it's going to change it to 20 seconds. And if you look down here in the movie time range, your end time now should be 20 seconds after your start time, which mine is. Once you do that, turn the lock back on and lock that up. Again, you can come back and do it again, and all the steps are in the tutorial. I'm going to click Next. And now it's going to ask me about anti-aliasing, record image quality, and estimated file size. I'm not going to make any changes here, but if you look at it, anti-aliasing, when you look at the pixels in your 3D graphic window, sometimes they look like a saw is what they look like to me. You can gray that out a little bit by using anti-aliasing. You have multiple selections, we'll just keep it a 3x3. It doesn't add any size to the movie, it just makes it longer to record, depending on how crazy you're going with your time. We'll just keep it a high quality. You have multiple selections in here. The higher the quality, the bigger the movie's going to be as far as the estimated size. Leave that alone. I'm going to leave the movie length to 20 seconds. You can see approximately how big your movie is going to be. Click Next. Finally, you can double check everything. You can always go back and change. It's not going to hurt anything. Just double check that you're happy with all your settings. 3D window, 20 seconds long. I got the correct format. I don't really care about the estimated size and where my movie's being stored. If you're happy with it the way I am, I'm going to go down and click the button that says Begin Record. Hands off. Sit back and let it do its thing. This is how easy it is to record a simple movie, and these are pretty much the exact steps you'll use in the Level 1 certification, which seems to be one of the harder things for people to do. Once the movie's complete, it's going to tell you the recording is complete, and it's going to ask you if you want to play the recorded movie. I'm going to say yes. It's going to open up my media player, whatever it is, Windows Media Player, and the crowd goes crazy, and I have won an Oscar. Now again, this was a real simple movie. I don't have any articulations like spinning propellers or anything like that. I don't have a camera path where I can move the camera around, but there's other tutorials in STK to tell you how to do all that stuff. So once I have my movie and I've looked at it and I'm extremely happy with it, I'm going to go up and close this, get back into my scenario. I'm going to click Finish. And before we create our VDF, which is the last thing we'll do here, we want to put our scenario back to the original start and stop time as far as the animation is concerned. You'll see what I mean here. So I'm going to go back over here to the object browser. I'm going to right click on STK movies and VDFs and open up my scenario objects properties. When you set that stored view and then you went into the movie wizard and you set up what time you wanted that movie to start and what time you wanted that movie to end, it came in here and it turned off use analysis start time and use analysis stop time for the animation frame, and it set that 20-second period right here. So analytically, I still have a 24-hour scenario, but visually I'm stuck at this 20-second frame. What you need to do, and it's a lot of people forget to do this, it's not a big deal. I mean, analytically you're still good, but the smart thing to do is to come in here and simply check these two boxes, turn these back on. And this resets your animation to match your analysis period. Go ahead and click OK. And now if you reset your scenario, your aircraft's going to be back over Naha. Next thing we'll do is we're going to save this as a visual data file. Now if you look at my screen, I just want to show you real quick what we're looking at here. I'm going to bring up my file structure here and just look at mine. If I go to STK 12 and I open up my STK movies and VDFs folder, all of these files are what STK is using right now to create my scenario. What I'm going to do is create a VDF, and what that VDF is going to do, it's going to take all these folders and put them into one folder. You can send that, you can email it to somebody that doesn't have STK, but they've put STK Viewer on a computer, and they can open that VDF and view the 3D graphic properties or the 3D graphic view of your scenario. Also, any reports and graphs that you've made, they can see. Let's create a quick report. I'm going to go over here to Photo Mission. I'm going to right click on Photo Mission. I'm going to select Report and Graph Manager. And I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to simply run a LLA position report. So I'm going to select this report and generate it. I'm going to go up to the toolbar and click Save as Quick Report. I'm going to close the report. and I'm going to close the Report and Graph Manager. Now I'm ready to save my VDF. So I'm going to go up to the File menu of STK, open up File, and you'll select VDF Setup. VDF Setup. In order to keep this small, we're going to go up here and turn on Exclude Install Files. Go ahead and turn that on. And you're going to get a question. Any reports you have in here, you're going to see this question. So if you have 10 reports, you're going to have to keep clicking yes. It's going to stay here. So you can see my LLA position report in there. So all I did, the only thing I did in here is turn on Exclude Install Files. If you had other things that you wanted to bring along with it, like text files or CSV files, you could come down here and copy scenario folder contents, and then it would ask you which files do you want to bring along. I'm just going to go down and click Create VDF. So go ahead and click Create VDF. I'm still in my scenario folder. If you're not, you would have to go back to it by clicking STK User and then opening up your STK movies and VDFs. You'll notice it names it for you. All you have to do is click Save. When it's done, it closes. I'm going to minimize STK. And when I get back out on my desktop, I'm going to locate that STK viewer icon. Go ahead and double click on that. And if it's the first time you open it up, it takes a few seconds. You get this license agreement, just click Accept. And again, they can download this from the AGI website and install it on any computer. Chances are you're not doing this refresh MATLAB path tool. That's because I have MATLAB loaded and I use it sometimes with STK. So don't worry about it if you don't see that. Once Viewer opens up, you'll see it looks similar to STK. I'm going to go up here into the upper left-hand corner and I'm going to click the Open folder. You're going to browse to your VDF that you created, so I'm going to click on STK Viewer User because I put it in my folder. If you happen to put it somewhere else, you'll have to go find it. There's my STK movies and VDFs, and there's that VDF that I created. I'm going to select it, click Open. So I have a really cool movie that I can throw on like an opening PowerPoint slide as people are coming in and they're getting excited to see my extremely important briefing. I can come into Viewer and I can show them things in Viewer. For instance, I can come up here to my quick reports and I can select my LLA position, show them data. So obviously you could have other stuff in here that's more important, but you get the idea. I have the report. I can also come up here to the stored views and jump to my aircraft view when it was over Amami. I can play my scenario. I can ensure that I'm on my X real-time clock here, and everything I can see in 3D and STK, I can also see in here. This is a really, really good briefing tool. Again, you can go back to the tutorial, go through it in detail and learn this a little bit better, but here you have your movie, you have your VDF, and you have your briefing, and everybody loves you for it. So with that, I'm going to move to the summary. In this tutorial, I showed you how to create a simple movie and how to create a visual data file, i.e. a VDF. We had an aircraft fly a pattern, supposedly doing some post-typhoon reconnaissance is really what it was. I showed you how to set up your windows, how to use the movie wizard in order to make a decent movie in STK. Again, it was just an intro. There's other tutorials out there that you can go into to get a better understanding on how to use articulations and that kind of thing in STK for better movies. We looked at the movie timeline plug and its functionality in recording a simple movie. We also showed you how to import data and create files so that when you create a visual data file, the VDF, and you go to another computer that has viewer on it, how you can not only show the visual representation of your scenario in 3D, but you can also look at reports and graphs that you brought along with that VDF. So with that, have a great day, and I'll see you when I do the last tutorial, number 5, when we talk about Connect.